Ladies and gentlemen, we are live coming back to you from another episode of the Running Bear.
What an animated entrance, man.
You know what, man? It's just Tourette's at this point, bro.
Everyone thinks
an echo.
Somewhere on some spectrum. She's sort of announcing for the WWE or something.
So, you know what, man? I'll do some WWE, get beat up a little bit.
I would just say announce. I wouldn't recommend you do the actual wrestling part, but...
No, I could do it.
You could. I believe it, yeah. I can see you doing that.
I could do it. Get slam right through a table. That's it. My career's over. I go in there, slide in there, get a little rug burn in the mat. They slam me through a table. The career's over, bro.
That's it, man. I'll watch.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, what's up, man? How you been?
Dude, I feel amazing. Feel absolutely amazing. It actually feels weird having this conversation with you, man, because I talk to you about so much stuff on and off camera. I just lose track of it all. And one thing that I don't think I've really asked you, man. I know we've probably touched on it, but I want to just ask you as far as like your experience, man, because you've done something so profound. You've went to a monastery, and just that alone, I really want to just dive into that and really understand that. Selfishly for my own stuff, man.
Ask away, man.
So tell me first off, what was going on in your life before you decided to go into a monastery?
You know, it's actually funny because a lot of people ask me that very question, and I could always tell because it is a very abnormal decision. I recognize that, and I think a lot of people enter that, that thought process when they think about what I did with, like, maybe I was going through some depression or something went wrong, or life hit me too hard and I just needed to escape. But honestly, for me, that wasn't really the case. Like, it wasn't really a, escape from something, or like life was just beating me up. Things were actually pretty good. I mean, I was the part of my life prior to that was a good time. I was having fun. I was traveling the world. I was performing. I was touring, and I was having a good time. And for me, it was curiosity. And I was just following a natural inclination within myself to just, learn more about myself and life and answer questions that I really had about, what's the nature of existence and consciousness that I just wasn't seem to find.
There's a lot of big questions, man. Those are huge questions.
That's why I went to a monastery.
That's fair, but a lot of people would usually go to Google, or they would go.
It wasn't clicking on Google for me. I mean, that's
okay. Okay.
I mean, Google gives you if you Google the right things. I mean, you can find a lot on Google too. But it's just information. Google can give you information. Books can give you information. But I personally, for me, without an experience, I have a hard time. It just doesn't seem real to me. It seems like a fact that I've absorbed, but I'm not experiencing the fact that I'm learning when I'm Googling something or reading something. So I was very aware that it's only experience is how you apply something that you're learning. So I knew that I needed to go do something in person, something real, and learn in a real way, in a traditional way. Like, learn from a guru, learn beside monks, and apply the things you're learning, and have it all see how it works in real time.
So how does that start? Like, do you have an idea of who these gurus already are? Do you have an idea of which monastery you want to go to? And
for me, I guess I saw the reality of this in the sense that there is no real clear answer to that, because one person can go to an ashram. I mean, in our tradition, it's called an ashram. I mean, it means the same thing, but you can go to an ashram and there could be 10 people in an ashram learning 10 different things in 10 different ways. And it really depends on the individual. I'll confess that, I mean, a lot of expectations may come from someone of what that will be like, what the people there will be like. And you may go from ashram to ashram, guru to guru, and, retreat to retreat, and seeking, these people that are fulfilling your fantasies and your expectations of what'll be there. And that's just not, I mean, I hate to say it, that's not the case. And everybody's going through their life struggles. Everybody's, managing their own psychological dramas and issues, and at the most you want to be alongside people that are striving for some form of self-mastery, some form of self-improvement, and then you kind of share that energy that's contagious. So when you're learning in the setting of a monastery, you at least you're in a realistic situation, that everyone's trying to better themselves in some way. So I can't say that there's a real clear way of where to go, and it's going to come from within, because I have learned through this process that there is that reality within you that will resonate with the truth and resonate with what is evolving you. And once you've developed an honesty with yourself and you're willing to confront things without kind of trying to get out of it and defend yourself and protect your ego, protect your mind, you're willing to change, you will recognize when you're in the right place and you're at the right time. And you'll recognize when you need to move on. And it's a difficult thing because it sounds abstract, and I recognize that. And I wish there were clear answers for people, but at least from where I've seen, that everyone's journey is going to be different. And maybe it's not for everybody to do that, but you have to follow the progression as the steps lay in front of you, and trust that you're guided by something within, and know that you have that compass within you to know where you need to go. You just need to learn to find it.
So you listen to your compass, obviously, and decided to pursue this spiritual journey, which is incredible. Where did you go? As in, like, how did you decide where to go? Because it's almost like, so, and at least the way I'm understanding this, it's like, I want to learn about God. Where do you go? Well, you got to go to different religions, and for you it's very specific, but I'm assuming there's different, maybe programs, different processes with each monastery. Like, how would you decide which one to go to?
You don't. It's gonna be a very abstract answer, and I recognize that, but I'd feel like I'm not telling you the truth if I weren't telling you that there is a mystery around it. When you find what's called, like, it's actually known as like one of the first steps of enlightenment, right? It's like, it starts with something called Ch.1, which means a pure will, a pure desire for something. Like, it's coming from the purest place, and you're willing to strive and pursue to find excellence and find those answers of what is God and all these things. You'll start to see mysterious things happen around you. More than you can explain it. I'm a very practical, logical-minded person, and I really always look for the strings attached. I don't like to live in fantasy. I don't like to believe things that aren't true. I don't like to believe anything. I like to experience things. And as I have been on this journey, as I've been on this path, I have seen that the very concept of a guru is not only encapsulated in one person. And even when you have a guru, you have the privilege, like I did, to actually meet a guru and learn from a guru. You realize that this is almost, it's actually known as the guru tattva. Like, it's a dimension of knowledge that you connect with, and all these things in your life will align for knowledge to come to you, as long as you're receptive and you're willing to absorb it. You can think of it like this: it's like the bee will only come to the flower when the flower opens itself. Right. And if you're not willing to open yourself to be receptive, then everything will always be happening on the outside. So you have to kind of have this, or at least remove these expectations, and I'm going to go through these programs. You can't approach it in this way, because it's going to be a very difficult process. This isn't an easy process if you're doing it the correct way. You can go to retreats and have people kind of cater to what you want from it, and there's a whole industry designed around catering to your own wishes and your own desires and your ego's personal, customized way of how it wants to go about this. But that's not going to be the right way. You're not going to get real, tangible, noticeable change by approaching it the way. You have to make yourself receptive, and you just keep taking the next step. So to answer your question in short is, instead of looking for these large programs and this, just take the next step. And the next step is, if you don't have the obvious answer around you, start to learn. Open a book, and with the intention of creating curiosity. It's not going to give you experience, but curiosity. This is what I want to know about. This is what I want to experience. And then you will start to see the path unfold. And until you look at it that way, you're going to be filled with disappointments.
That's a very brave thing to do, and that's to take a step on faith. I would call it taking steps on faith, in faith, because you put faith into the right things, and then you're seeking a spiritual enlightenment, or not even just spiritual enlightenment, but a spiritual journey that's going to essentially bring you there. And that's brave, man. That's extremely brave.
It takes bravery.
Who is Shiva before that, taking these steps?
Before that, I was just as I am now. And in some ways I wasn't different at all. And in some ways I was different. But in that sense, I didn't have much of a curiosity towards this, because I was willing to settle for just like, backtrack. I definitely had a good time in my life where I consider myself like an atheist, right? And I'll admit that it's not that I knew anything. I couldn't say that God isn't real. I just never found any real explanation. It sounded like everyone believed more than they knew. So I'm like, all right, I just think everything you're saying is bullshit. And Shiva, to answer your question, was the guy who's like, everyone's full of shit around me. And that's all it is. And I don't believe anything you're saying. And I'm just fine with that. So I'm just going to follow my own desires and my own sense of joy and navigate the world that way. And I didn't feel unfulfilled, to be honest. I didn't feel like I was broken or hollow inside. I felt fine. And I just finally found a curiosity for more within me. And that was what led me to the next chapter. So before that, I was just a regular person trying to live a regular life. And I did kind of rejected the world's or society's structure of how I should live my life. And I never felt tuned to that at all. But I feel more aligned with a certain path that I'm on now. And I feel very confident that this is what I need to be doing. And a lot of challenges come with it. A lot of sacrifices need to be made for it. It's still not very clear. It's clear where I'm going, but it's not clear what's going to happen along the way. And I'm willing to accept that.
That says a lot. It says a lot. So you're calling yourself average guy. I've known you. I don't think you're an average guy, but for the sake of conversation,
I feel like I am.
We'll call you average for the sake of this conversation.
Thank you.
No problem, man. So you're an average guy, and you have this calling. You have a calling to go and do something bigger than yourself and explore this curiosity from a spiritual aspect. Very brave thing to do. It finds you. You take the step, and it kind of calls you, and you align. Okay, that is extremely brave. What is your first day like walking into a monastery? And I mean, hold on. First, I keep saying monastery. Ashram. Okay, cool. Just want to get that ashram. Yeah. So you walk into an ashram, and is it what you expected? I'm assuming by then you had to do a Google search or something. By then,
didn't do any Google search.
No Google search. Okay, so you walked in, zero expectations. Cool. Did you have an expectation, regardless of your Google search?
There was in one of the ashrams I went to, there was actually a board from that my guru had put up from it was like a famous saying that I guess existed in his lineage from his guru, and it said that I came expecting a book and I received a broom. And that is exactly what I experienced too. That's it.
Okay.
And that was it. It was a lot. It was not. I mean, that's self-explanatory. You know, you think it's going to be a certain way. You have all these expectations and all this stuff, and you really get straight to work.
Okay. So you walk in, you see this quote on the board, and that quote sets the tone.
Perfectly.
It's
a perfect way to set the tone. Because it's true.
No exaggeration.
Exactly
it sets the tone. And so when you read this, did you think it was almost sarcastic?
I quickly realized it wasn't. I mean, it didn't take long to realize that's exactly how this is going to be. Because you know what? And it's hard to understand at first, because you'd think that we'd go straight into the knowledge, straight into the meditation and the rituals, and this is going to be a process of enlightenment. And you
a class of some sort.
Yeah, you have this movie-like expectation of how this is going to go. And then you get a broom, like I did. And, just to put it into context, we have to do something with what's known as karma yoga or seva when you're in an ashram. And that means you have to now work and serve only to not have any expectations of any kind of someone to, thank you, have gratitude for you, receive anything in return, nothing. You just learn service and action. And on that process, I'll give you this kind of example of me. One of my daily, I would say, acts of karma yoga or seva was that I had to sweep the temple floor every morning. And it was the outside part of the ashram, and right around that area was what we do, like it's called a havan, which is like a fire ritual, right? So I would be part of I would be the person who would prepare it, sweep the whole area, and get it all ready. It was like 6 a.m. or whatever. I'd be there doing that, and that's not the part that I minded as much. The thing is, the whole area was surrounded with tall bamboo that they had planted. Now, bamboo sheds leaves constantly, and It didn't frustrate me that I had to sweep. It frustrated me like this. The way this is set up is just like it's constant work. This will never stop. It will always be full of leaves every day, and I'm just sweeping there every day. And I would in the beginning complain in my head. I wouldn't say it out loud, but I'm like, this is the stupidest thing it's ever done. I don't understand why intelligent people would set it up this way. And shouldn't it be practical? Shouldn't it be done in a way where you don't have to do more work than you needed? And I spent, I'll admit, months complaining about this. Not like anger, frustrated complaining, but just in my head. It was always a passing thought through it. And no one ever told me anything about it, nor did I ask, but it was just something that was always in my head. And one day we're sitting in class, and my guru was teaching a class, and he used, surprisingly, and these are moments where I'm like, I don't know if he knows what's in my head, but somehow the very question or the very issue that I'm wrestling with is addressed. So he's talking about it, and he gives a story and an example of a pond with bamboo over it. And he used the pond as an analogy for the mind and the bamboo leaves as thoughts. And he's like, you know what? You may go to the pond, and you may clean out all the thoughts so that the water is clear and you can see your reflection. But you're going to go back tomorrow, and the leaves will fall again, and it'll be unclear again. And it was showing you that this is important part of your sadhana and your practice, that the leaves will never stop falling. The thoughts will never stop coming to your mind. It'll always make reality unclear to you. And if you lose the habit of clearing the leaves every day, they'll just accumulate, and your mind will get more and more murkier and muddier and unclear. Wow. And the longer you wait to clear it up, the harder it's going to be to do that. So if you just make it a habit of clearing out the leaves every single day, not a stressful process, not frustrated about it, like you're almost happy to just clear out these leaves so you have a clear vision of your reflection in the water and you see it for what it is, then you've understood what this process of yoga is. And as soon as I heard that, the whole process of me sweeping these leaves every morning changed. And that I would do it with intent. I would do it with mantras in my head. I understood that this is a symbolic process, that until I learn to do this without complaining, I'm not going to know how to manage my mind. I'm not going to know to treat this process with grace. I'm always going to be frustrated about it. Oh my God, I got to wake up and do my sadhana. I got to meditate. I got to do my breath work. I have to do my mantras. And it becomes a tedious, gruesome process that you're going to complain about all the time. It doesn't even matter if you're doing it at that point, because see, the irony is if you're sweeping up the thoughts every day, you're clouding it with more thoughts while you're sweeping the thoughts, and it's like a double negative there. Mm-hmm. So
you just don't even get it.
You're not going to get it. It doesn't matter that you're doing it at that point. You're just immediately adding to the problem as you're solving it.
Completely missing it until you get it.
Exactly. So no book could have taught me that. No words in a book could have ever gotten that into my mind. I had to go through the process first to understand what the real life situation actually is. You will complain every day. You're going to think about it every day. You're not going to like to sweep. Your feet are cold because it's freezing. You have so many complaints about it. And then finally it clicks as to what this is a symbol of. And you're like, well, that's the purest form to receive knowledge. And you have to be put in a situation to see it play out in real life. Then you apply it.
Wow.
That's how, that's where I understood. I came looking for a book and I received the broom.
So you receive this broom literally, and as you're sweeping the ashram, that is one of your daily classes. You said you do meditations, mantras, and you also do acts of service. So is it what's your day look like? So when do you wake up? You after you're done sweeping, because apparently you got to grab the broom first when you wake up, or it's
it varied, but I'll give you like a regular day for a long stretch I was there. So what we would wake up at around 4:15. By 4:45, and this is when I was in Rishikesh in India. About 4:45, we start walking down to the river, the Ganga River, right? It's like a sacred, holy river in India. A lot of spiritual people migrate there and take, like what they know like yatras or pilgrimages to there to enhance their spiritual path. But that's where the ashram was. So we walked down to the river. We do what's called a snan, which is it's like a dip in the river. You do it with a ritual, with intent, and it's kind of a purification process of the mind, of the energies, of the body, of course. And then we would do a meditation, or we'd do a part like our sadhanas, where we take our mala, our beads, and we do mantras. Right after that, we go to get ready for our exercises, our asanas. We do like a pranayama. We breathe. We work with our body, open ourselves up, go back, get dressed into our monk robes, come back for the morning rituals, which would be the fire ceremony and what's known as the Guru Puja and everything like that. And after that, we start our day. We go into breakfast, then we go into classes, and then after that point, we do either classes or karma yoga service. So if you're not studying, you're working.
That's gonna feel pretty good to get at least breakfast after that.
It's not always guaranteed. Not always guaranteed.
What do you mean?
Well, good example would be, breakfast is supposed to be around 11:30, and some days you eat breakfast, some days at 11:28 you hear there's a surprise class, and you walk past where you're supposed to eat breakfast and go straight, which would be prepared sometimes, by the way, like it's waiting for you, but you're not going to get it. You're going to go to class instead. And also examples of like, well, then now you're going to complain. Well, I'm supposed to eat. My body needs food. And you start generating all these complaints again in your head. And then you sit in class for how many hours you have to be there. Maybe you're too hungry to even process anything. So you complain even more, and you don't realize you're actually learning. The class was this. It wasn't actually maybe sometimes what was happening in class. It was the fact that you had to skip breakfast and sit with complaints again in your head, and then realize that this is part of the training of a yogi. So you have to go through your duties to yourself. You wake up, you do your practices. That's non-negotiable, and it shouldn't be enforced on you. This should be coming from within you. And for that reason, till this day, I carry my sadhana with me, because no one has to force me. It's never going to break. But around that, you're always going to be thrown all these curveballs. Something's going to happen. You didn't get to eat. You didn't get to sleep. There's always something. And our guru was perfect at that. It would be curveball after curveball, and you never knew what was going to happen. You never knew. You could never expect a structured day, a structured routine, a structured class, and it generates complaints. It generates frustrations, and you don't realize that's the learning process. Because part of becoming a yogi is you learn to bend and never break. No matter what happens, you have to have flexibility with getting around these situations and accepting things as they are, not generating bitterness, not generating resentment and negativity, and just accept things as they are. And because that's going to be life. Life will never be structured. Life will never cater to how you think things are going to go. There's always, and I know because we've been through these too together sometimes. Like we've seen the curveballs, and unexpected things are always going to happen. And are you going to let it get to you? Are you going to let it destroy your day? And this is part of the training process. This is why it's so important to go and put yourself through these difficulties and allow someone to put you through them, as long as you can trust that they have your best interest in mind.
Right.
Because trying to give you a perfect structure and the perfect knowledge and the perfect environment and everything's quiet while you meditate and everything's like, that's not how life is. You're never going to find this environment, not even in an ashram. So that's just that's only in movies. Only in movies will you get that, or you're getting someone who's artificially created an environment like this for a week or two, which is good. I mean, I would love to go experience that too for a week or two, but I just know that's not life.
Yeah.
I know this is not what I should expect life to be like.
It's really funny. You're bringing me back to days when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, and our strength and conditioning coach, his name was Buddy Morris. Shout out to Buddy Morris. I've heard stories, nightmares about this guy. He was a master in strength and conditioning. When I say a master, he has mastered the body. He has studied so many greats, and he has put so many people in the NFL. And at that point in time in collegiate football, at university, I was planning to do that. So I said, what better way than, because you have the intellectual side of it, which is understanding your plays in the game, understanding the game's X's and O's, as they would say. And there's a way to play that, and there's a way to strategize and get good at that and manipulate those situations. But you also have to be in the best shape of your life. At least you want to be. Similar with your mind and your body. Now, when I was in the university, I would show up to these trainings, and all the trainings were different. They were all different. Now, I was just told, listen to this guy. Before I walked in there, just listen to him. Everything he says, you do it to the best of your ability. I said, okay. Now I show up, and the first thing I show up to is a hill. It's 5 a.m. And there's this long hill. It's probably about 4 or 5 football fields long, and it's slow incline, and it gets pretty steep towards the end. And I'm just like, what are we all doing here? And I'm looking at people's faces on this football team because I'm meeting them for the first time, and nobody looks happy.
They're going through it.
Everybody in their mind is already like, no one's talking. There's no, hey, bro, how's your morning go? You eat bread? No one's talking. Everyone's just. So I'm like, man, this vibe's going. Henny's like, all right, line up at the bottom of this hill. Just blows a whistle. There's a group that goes, and you go by position. So first group goes, and they're going up this hill. Second group, they're going up this hill. Next group, up this hill. Next group, up this hill. And after about the 8th one, you're walking back, and your legs are
destroyed.
You're just like, man, this is something. How many of these we got today? Right? So you're asking questions, and people are like, we never know. So you never know. What do you mean you never know? And then you start to see people break. These are 5-star athletes, the best athletes in the country.
Because their mind breaks.
Their mind breaks, and some of them in their body. We call them sniped. You're running, and next you know, they dropped like a hamstring. Some people act hurt, and that's the mind games. Just to get. You start seeing it, and you start seeing them get picked apart, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? Because in my mind at that point in time, exercise in football was, bench press, squat in the gym. We're not in the gym. This is not gym work. It's mind work. So before we could even get in the gym, we got to get the mind. So he's training us to push through these levels, and you never know. You never know when you're gonna stop. There's not do 10 of these, do 15 of these, do 20 of these. It's never given to you. So it's just a matter of training, conditioning. Now, at first, I'm like, I'm asking everybody else. I'm not going to ask him, hey, how many of these we got? I'm like, bro, how many do these? He said, I don't know. Sometimes we do like 5, sometimes we do 25. I'm like, that's a big number, bro. I don't know.
It's a huge difference.
Big difference. But to your point, at that point in time, man, that it was molding me. It was molding me. And for me personally, I got good at it. I got really good at it, and I started smiling. I started smiling after doing these for probably 6 months to a year. It never felt good waking up early, ever. It never felt good. Some days were better than others, but but I started smiling. I even smiled after I threw up because because you're walking down a hill and you're throwing up and you're walking. You're walking and you just start smiling. It got me today. It's almost twisted. It's almost twisted, and I sincerely developed a relationship because I liked it, but my body also adapted to the point where it's like, we're still good. We're fine. We're throwing up. We're fine. Our legs aren't tired. Our minds, we're still here. We're smiling. Like we're good, even though we're under this high pressure of stress. So I say all of that just because that story it just reminds me of that, and a lot of my mind goes to that when things do get really, really hard.
What you say is actually a perfect like encapsulation of like a very important understanding someone has to go through as they're developing as a yogi, is that, you know, pain can only exist in the body, but suffering can only exist in the mind. And until you separate those two, and they start interchanging, you're going to always have a problem. As you're saying, you're getting pain, you're throwing up, but you're smiling. You're not suffering. You're just in pain. And the process gets easier. Like, you know, that's going to be life. And maybe you didn't realize it then as you were going through it, as I maybe didn't realize it when I was going through it in my own ways. But over time, when it marinates and it kind of resonates with you and sits, you realize that suffering is my own choice. That's the only part I have control over. The body will always create something, but will I suffer? That's my decision. And when you make the decision to never suffer, then you've completely transformed your life, and you can smile through all your difficulties.
Absolutely. So, how long did it take you in the ashram to start smiling? Did you?
It takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while. I mean, you start to smile more after you first start to laugh at yourself for have not seen it before. You laugh when you realize that you are learning. Maybe you don't think you're learning, but you are learning. And not only there, your life has been teaching you something the whole time. And it's the equivalent, like, that's where I also realized life is constantly teaching you things. And the only issue is, are your ears closed? You know, are you listening or not? It's like you can sit in a classroom, knowledge is being exchanged here. You know, there's a lecturer, they're teaching, but you're sitting with your ears closed, you're receiving nothing. And the same as such in life. You know, life is always lessons and very profound things are happening to you, and synchronicities will happen around you, all trying to teach you a lesson. And if you're just willing to listen, you're just willing to accept what's being taught to you, get these identities and conditions that you have that you're defending so avidly, like you don't want to let them go. Like, this is how things are. This is who I am. This is how I am. Let this go, and let life teach you that there's always change. It's constant change, and it's either progression or regression. But the change is always going to keep happening, and tune yourself with that. You know, and then the smiles start coming. You're like, you know, this is going to keep happening. You know, and positivity can be generated from within. Joy can be generated from within. Laughter can be generated from within, actually. So then you'll only smile, you'll smile through the difficulties. And I've seen firsthand that you're like that. And so I know what you're saying is coming from a real place, because I know that, you know, I've seen you go through difficulties. I've seen you go through many things that a lot of people would be broken by. And you just laugh. You just laugh it off. You know, it is what it is. Genuinely. Like, you know, it doesn't. First, I'm like, yo, this dude's out of his fucking mind. I don't know. I think it's going to crack any second. But I see through time, I'm like, no, he knows how to laugh through difficulty and laugh through problems. And that's such a valuable thing to instill within yourself, because then you have so much more power and potency and capacities to go through life. And there's so much more to explore at that point. Otherwise, you're stuck in your own drama all the time. You'll never escape it. No money, no pleasures, no desires. Nothing can get you out of your own mental drama other than yourself.
So that, first of all, I appreciate the kind words, man. And
it's the truth.
And as you're going through these daily processes, these daily enlightenment sessions that can come at any given point in time, what are some of the challenges you're going through? Obviously, your mind, and it sounds like there's a lot that you took away, a lot of positives. Are you realizing this in this moment? Like, as you're going through these lessons, it's like, what are the challenges that you initially have? Are you saying, oh, can I do this? How long do I have to do this? When will it come? Are people here? Are you seeing people come and go because they can't do it? Like, what's your mind doing in this point?
Well, you kind of answered the question. Also, the challenges were my mind. That it generated all of my challenges, and exactly what you're saying. You get into this mode of comparison, criticism. Why it didn't work for them? How would it work for me? I'm personally, I've always been a terrible student my entire life. I mean, I've never like, I mean, school was an absolute like miserable. I had fun in school. I didn't do well in school. So like I didn't have a lot of confidence in my ability to sit through a class, like philosophies, and there's these profound concepts I'm trying to learn and understand. I'm a more of an experiential learner. That's as I told you about how these things would happen in my life, and then I learned so much through my experiences. But classes were hard for me. Sitting through classes were hard for me. And this was I didn't necessarily have any confidence. I still don't have a lot of confidence about how I'm going to learn from a class, but now I see that maybe just getting myself to sit through the class is the lesson sometimes. Just getting all these blockages out of my mind that's the value. So the challenges are self-generated and the solutions are self-generated. They're all coming from within, and that's what I had to learn.
What are your classes like?
Oh, they can be many different things. So I would say the lineage I'm connected to follows a combination of a few things. One is actually a philosophy called Advaita Vedanta. It's also mixed with like a very particular side of Tantra, and so there's always combinations of them in some ways, and depending on when or what time, there's always something else going on. But Advaita Vedanta is a very particular approach to it's philosophical, right? And it's an intellectual approach in many ways of comprehending the non-duality of life. So understanding that, like, through the mind, through the intellect, a pursuit can take place to purify it and understand that any separation that exists is illusions that are made in your own mind. And a lot of times these are very like complex concepts that are really, it's kind of hard to digest it. And the until it's clicked, it feels like a study more than it feels like something that's taking place. Yoga is more of a experience application process. I resonate with that more. But I also understand the philosophies are a process of purifying the intellect, because the intellect has this nature that it constantly goes and dissects and cuts things and complicates things. And the sharper it is, sometimes the worse it is if you don't know how to use it properly. So these philosophies are very important to purify the intellect so it thinks in a more composed and profound way, and it's not just torturing you all the time. But for me, getting there was difficult just because it's a process through a class. And sitting in class was always a childhood, difficulty for me. I also, have my own issues. They, I guess, told me I have ADHD, I have dyslexia. And so it's not, for me, I guess it's not as easy to just learn through a textbook class way. But, I was still sitting in those classes and I still learned. And sometimes the classes would go on for 8 hours in one stretch.
Wow.
Yeah, and you don't know they are. It's not like you're going to sit in an 8-hour class. Sometimes you thought you were going to sit in a 2-hour class, and I'm a very. This is also why I laugh at how I needed to be taught. I'm a very punctual person. Like, you tell me to be somewhere at 4:00, I'll be there at 3:55. I hate being late. I don't like other people being late. I like to respect my time, other people's time. And this is always how I've functioned. And both my parents are that way. It's very it's very embedded in me to function in that way. And my guru functions in the complete opposite way. Sometimes he'll say our class is at 12:00 and it's going to be from 12 to 2. And he shows up at 3. and he was waiting there for 3 hours for the class to start. And then it goes on for 8 hours. And you haven't eaten, you're in pain, your back hurts. And I couldn't tell you for the love of God what we even learned about at that point. My brain was just fried. But sitting through it is a lesson. Getting your mind past this process is a lesson. The expectations is a lesson. Not being bitter and resentful towards people not catering to your expectations of how life should go is a lesson. Very important lesson. Still learning respect, still learning gratitude. Finding all that through these challenges is the power. And I realize, and when I reflect on it, that that's what I needed to learn more than anything else. Maybe maybe the classes have embedded themselves into my subconscious, and maybe I don't know that I know it, but you ask me a question and I have the answer. I'm not holding it in my memory or my intellect, but I have the answer if you ask me. And this is what the claims are in that culture. That's what the claims are in these studies. This is not meant to be held in your memory. It's meant to be experienced and reflected upon and delivered if someone asks you. And it makes no sense when you hear that way. Like, what do you mean I'm going to I'll sit through all this class and not remember it? And how am I supposed to know? Like, this is just be grateful, have gratitude, have discipline, have structure, and have no expectations of how others should act to cater to yourself. When these things have been absorbed within you, then the classes were worth it. Then the experiences were worth it. But only you can accept these things. Like you can reject them or accept them, or you can sit in an ashram or a monastery for your entire life, multiple lifetimes, and get nowhere until you have learned to see behind all of this stuff. Until then, this is just going to be a miserable process.
Are there any things that you ultimately held on to during this process? Like I know you. I feel like you're a very active guy. You're always in the gym. You're always moving. You're working out. You're in great shape. Like you're. I would consider you a very healthy lifestyle person. That's got to be a transition. Yeah.
It was because the food is not how I would have. I eat. Like I always try to make sure I'm healthy. I eat timely and. That's challenged. You don't get to work out the way you want to work out. You don't get to, you take care of yourself the way you want to take care of yourself. And sometimes you'll go through fastings and all this stuff and another challenge, because to me, I also like to study these things with my own interest too. I like to watch documentaries and podcasts and read books and stuff like that about how the health, the body, all of these things work as well. And when I see that these things aren't put into the right place, you'll start complaining again, at least in your mind. Well, this isn't right. This isn't. Then you're introduced to a concept, as I did, of tapasya. Tapasya is when you go through an intentional challenge or an intentional struggle to strengthen the mind. And I was like, okay, but we're not eating or sleeping much, so isn't that must not be good for the body, right? I'm saying it as like a challenge. Like, did you guys not know that? Or they're like, no, it's terrible for the body actually. Like, well, what do you mean? But you have to also realize the body has a defense mechanism built within it, and connected to the body is the mind, which also has a defense mechanism built within it, and connected to the mind is an ego, which also has a defense mechanism built into it. And those defense mechanisms will prevent you from certain things because you want to protect. Your ego wants to protect itself. Your mind wants to protect itself. Your body wants to protect itself. And it'll create friction with growth sometimes. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to change it, you won't realize that these defense mechanisms will be your obstacle sometimes. So sometimes you have to deliberately challenge these things, deliberately challenge your health, deliberately challenge your mind, and see that you can break past that limitation. There's plenty of stories, and I'll actually give you an example. There's a certain sect of of the Indian spiritual system called Nagas, right? And these were the ancient I would say spiritual I would say sects that protected the temples from invasion, and they lived a very rugged and nomadic life, and on the surface they look dirty, they look they look lost and a little savage, and you wouldn't understand, but they're living potent, powerful spiritual processes and hold a lot of knowledge, and you'll see them do things that you wouldn't think a human being can do. One of the best examples is some of them go through an initiation process of tapasya, and this is a very common one. You'll see them take an oath where they raise their arm in the air, and they vow to never lower it for 11 years. And their arm rots on their body. It's mummified, and you see them, their nails in their arm, they can't come down after that. And they walk through the rest of their life with their arm, like a mummified arm on their body. And that's not healthy to the body. There's no way to justify that's healthy, but that's a symbol they have transcended the limitations of the body's inbuilt self-preservation. That's how strong their mind is. The body wants to defend itself, and they completely were able to break past that. Only someone with that capacity could even do that. So when you're seeing someone with a mummified arm on them, you realize what they're holding inside of their mind. You're like, wow. How is that even possible? I can't, you can't. How the hell can someone manage to do that? but you realize that this is a strengthening and a conditioning on a whole nother level. And I mean, not that everyone should go and try to attempt to do that, but those are extreme examples of what people will put themselves through to strive for self-excellence and break all of those limitations, all of those ideas and preservational kind of tendencies we have within us, and tap into something that is so much, because that's what their interest is, not in keeping the body healthy. It's touching in that deepest core essence of who you are and finding the power within that. And the body is a disposable. They knew that body is disposable. We're I don't want to lose my body. They don't care. They're like, I'm going to lose this anyway. It's disposable. In this life, what can I achieve beyond it? And then you see examples like that. So tapasya, that would be an extreme example of it, but just like fasting, not eating well, not sleeping well, yes, it taxes you. You can recover. Things will be fine. But the strengthening and the conditioning that takes place in the mind, like you were saying when you were doing football practice, you're throwing up and you're falling down, you got sniped. Is that healthy? No. It was not healthy to push yourself to that level of exhaustion. But who comes on the other side? Who comes out of that struggle in that process? A person that's ready for life. Person who's resilient, a person who can take a beating, take the punches, get knocked down, and keep getting up with a smile on their face, and that's the value of that,
Absolutely. And I put you in the category of, as you're saying this, I'm thinking of all these references that I hear maybe on social media or maybe on just where David Goggins is a perfect example.
Yeah,
I put you in that category. Navy SEALs in Hell Week. No. Yeah, I do. David Goggins, Navy SEALs in Hell Week, because your mind and your physical is tested. That's the test. And David Goggins, I don't was he was a Navy SEAL, so he does tap into that. And he tapped into it from being Navy SEAL, but also Navy SEAls in Hell Week per se, just they tap into that realm. I heard stories, and I'm not going to explain them all, but it's a make or break. And just like you said, it's a make or break, straight to the point. You're either going to make it or your mind's going to break.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. It's when. Mm-hmm. When you're either gonna be there or you're not. Yep. Either way, I don't care. You're already late. Let's go.
Yep.
And you're just okay.
That's the only way to challenge it. There's no way to challenge it in theory. It has to be real.
So putting yourself in a level of that kind of stress, and that it can only come. I mean, you're still here. So the fact that you're still here and we're having this conversation, like. You seem healthy. You seem good. I mean,
I recovered.
Yeah, maybe some screws you lose. I can't.
Couple.
Maybe you're the crazy
Lost
guy.
a few too, but
crazy people call people crazy. I don't know. So, what was one of the biggest things to this day that maybe was a misconception that maybe you had wrong and you looked at wrong? And is there any of those during your experiences?
I would say one of the biggest misconceptions I had going into it was the ego was something that needed to be destroyed and burned. And I heard that a lot. I heard ego death and these kind of buzzwords fly around, and it was an idea that I thought I was going into. And not that I was excited about it, but I thought it was what I was going towards. And I realized that, the ego has been, especially in the West, there's a negative undertone to that word. If I say, "Hey, Chris, you have an ego," some part of you is a little offended by that, like because you would mean, bro? You would feel like I'm calling you arrogant. Right? It's synonymous with arrogance, and that arrogance must be destroyed for sure. That's not something you should hold within you. But ego is part of your individual experience. It's part of the facets of your system, and it's kind of, you can almost think of like a software you have to interface with the world. If you take that away, you have nothing. There's nothing to identify you with. There's nothing to present yourself as. There's no one to teach. There's nothing. You need it, but it needs to be trained, not destroyed. It needs to be conditioned properly to serve you. So it is aligned with what it is that you're trying to do in this life. How can it give you value, give others value, tune it with gratitude, tune it with respect, tune it with the ability to absorb knowledge and help those that need it. then you have understood how to use it properly. But it's like, just because you don't know how to manage it, you need to destroy it. So that was an interesting perspective that I would say a misconception I for sure had going into that. It was this is what this process is, and that's not the case. Eventually, it dissolves. It on its own. Then it's something different, but it's not something you need to have animosity towards, because it creates a conflict within yourself, and that is a damaging thing to live with.
So can you ever? You say dissolve. Can you ever kill an ego?
Yeah. I mean, you could damage it. You can kill your brain. You can kill your body. You can kill so many things. Of course, you can damage something that you hold, but you shouldn't, because it needs to be trained.
But you could damage it, but can you kill it? Like could it disappear?
Not. Yes, it can disappear. Yes. That will be a result of your achievements, not of your animosity towards it. That's when you've achieved what you'll call Nivikalpa Samadhi. It's the highest state of enlightenment you can achieve. And the ego, the individual self, dissolves because of the knowledge and the state you've attained. You've seen the ultimate truth and nature and existence of life, so much so that the illusions of the self have disappeared. This is kind of the end goal of the spiritual seeker, and it's a journey of lifetimes to achieve this.
And that would be enlightenment, or nirvana.
Sure, yeah, exactly. So that's the case where it is naturally and positively dissolved. But if your frustration towards it is the catalyst for getting rid of it, I think that's just like a snake eating its own tail kind of situation.
It's gonna bring you back to these others.
And because then it's like the ego trying to destroy the ego. So it kind of contradicts itself at that point. It's like you must be able to exist beyond it to even address it in that way. And that's in the sense of that question, no. But as attaining these higher states, which are the goal in many ways, then yes. But there's no rush there. Like just enjoy your life. Smell the flowers along the way. Enjoy your cup of tea. All these things are along the way. Life is still a beautiful experience, even with an ego. If you tune yourself properly, have gratitude, have respect. Learn knowledge, purify yourself. Don't be arrogant. Don't be a dick. Don't be an asshole as you navigate your life. And your ego is going to work well for you. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not something that needs to be destroyed. It needs to be trained. That's the process of yoga. That's the process of Vedanta. That's the process of all of these things, is the training of the ego. You don't need one. You don't need all these processes if you've already are living beyond it. So it's damaging for people to tell themselves this, because you're creating an internal conflict by saying that I must kill my ego and destroy. Use the right word, my arrogance. I must kill my arrogance. I must kill disrespect, selfishness, narcissism, whatever these negative qualities I hold. Kill those things, but not the software itself that you need to navigate the world.
That's well said. That's well said. And as you're working through your arrogance in these situations, and your arrogance is ultimately tested, you said that you're consistently doing things that to kind of tune that. What does that mean? Does this consist of like meditations and mantras on a daily basis?
I do.
Did they teach you that at the ashram, or
Yeah.
did you go in there with already a portfolio of?
No, I think all of those things I learned there. The values of it I learned there. How to approach it properly I learned there. I learned what meditation is. I learned what it is not. I learned tools. Each one of these things are tools, and you were given tools, and you use them or you don't use them. You can learn how to meditate, or practice with dhyanam, as they call them, but you gotta do it every day. I can teach someone how to brush their teeth, but the oral hygiene is maintained by daily maintenance of it. If you don't do it every day, what's the value of knowing it? There's really nothing there. So yeah, these things I realize that it's important, and I think that's why it's important to be built into the structure of how the daily activities of the ashram goes. You don't ever not do these things. You don't sleep, you didn't eat, you have class, no matter what, these things still need to happen. This is the daily maintenance. This is the system. You have to make sure you have the ability to concentrate. You're keeping your energy system clean. You're keeping your body clean. We shower every day. We brush our teeth every day. We eat every day. We don't realize these are also ritualistic daily activities we do. So these are also combined with that same routine. These are, realize there's a mind to clean every day. Like the bamboo leaves I was talking about. Your thoughts every day, you wake up, who's going to clean those? And if you don't clean those, they just accumulate. And then if they accumulate, they cause ripple effects and consequences. And then we start suffering the consequences. And then we start going into fixing the symptom of the issue that you could have easily prevented just by daily activity. So it doesn't take discipline for me now to do my daily meditations and breathing exercise and all. I just realize I have to shower, I have to brush my teeth, I have to do these things too. Or I feel, because I've over time at least developed a sensitivity and tuned myself to be able to realize that my mind is not functioning clearly. If I ever fall off, I feel it. My mind's not on point. I don't like to feel that way. So I'm not driven by discipline at that point. I'm driven by this idea of self-maintenance, because I would like to evolve, and I don't like to do things the same way I've maintained my body and you've maintained your body. Like, no one forces me to go to the gym every day. It's just part of my maintenance. I like to feel strong. I like to feel agile. And I know that when I don't, everything starts to hurt more. My back hurts more, my knees, everything starts to deteriorate when I don't maintain it. I'm not going to look big anymore. Maybe it started that way when I was a teenager. Maybe starts with some sense of vanity. But over time, you just realize this is the most valuable thing you can do to yourself. It increases the quality of your life. So I'm driven by the quality of my life to do these things.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and that's what I would consider pure wisdom. That you just shed so much wisdom.
Wisdom is just applied knowledge. That's how I look at it.
That's what I would consider. I would consider that wisdom. And as you're doing these things, you're using these tools throughout your daily process. Are you good at your tools? Are you just picking them up in your Picasso with these tools of meditation? And you're learning these mantras, and is that comfortable? Are you comfortable, and does it feel familiar, or does it feel foreign and there's friction? Like if I go on a weight bench, you said compared to working out, I'm thinking if I go on to a weight bench and I haven't been there in 6 months, everything feels heavy. No matter how or where I look at it, 30, 40, 50, everything feels heavy. You gotta gradually start small and always work yourself back up. There's no ego. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go for the 70s and then 120s and okay, bro, okay. See.
That's the perfect example, actually, is that if you were lifting 225 on the bench, and you had a good groove going, and you fall off for 6 months, it's gonna feel a lot heavier when you go back into it. And it's probably not where you should start, right? So meditation, I would feel functions the exact same way, because meditation follows concentration, and it's actually I would say a lot of people misuse this word. Meditation is not something you can do. It's something you achieve through your concentration. It's a state you'll enter through sharpened concentration. So when you're practicing meditation, what you're really practicing is concentration.
Could you repeat that?
Meditation is not something that you do. Meditation is something you become as a result of your concentration. So when you're practicing every day, you're practicing concentration. And this is also a very important revelation I had for myself, because, it's something that's so vague on the outside, right? So, for example, I can sit here and cross my legs and sit with a mudra with my hands and close my eyes and not move for 1 hour, right? On the outside, you'd look at me and be like, "Wow, this guy is impressively locked in." You'd compliment me and hold me to put me on a pedestal because of it. Because a lot of people can't do that. Sit for 1 hour without moving and not even twitching, nothing like that. But you don't know what's going on inside. Maybe I just got really good at not moving my body and sitting straight for an hour. That's impressive, sure. But am I really in meditation? That's for me to know, right? I could be thinking about all kinds of nonsense. And all I did was just not move my body and fooled you, right? And what's even worse is when I'm not fooling you, I'm also fooling myself. And this requires self-inquiry to understand what's going on. In fact, there's this concept that's very, important to understand, especially in the Vedanta philosophy. It's called Manoraja, which means sandcastle in the sky. So it's a precautionary kind of piece of information to say that when you're sitting there, the mind wants to wander, and anybody that practices concentration will recognize within seconds the mind wanders. Seconds. It doesn't even take a minute or two. And in fact, it's even said that you will achieve meditation when you have completed a 12-second cycle of concentration. Just 12 seconds. And if you're honest with yourself, you're probably realizing you're not even making it to 2. Because that also means not thinking about concentrating. You're just concentrating. Whatever the object of your concentration was, 12 seconds was when you will enter into meditation. So getting to that 12 seconds is very hard when you're being honest with yourself. And that's why they're warning you against Manuraja, because they're saying that the mind will create fantasies, and I'm opened up my heart and I feel the energy and I see lights. It'll start creating all kinds of stuff. And you have to be fascinating stuff that you are impressed on your own, that I'm getting there. You got to get all that out of your head. Remove it. Stop lying to yourself. Stop letting your mind trick yourself, and just focus on concentration. Every day. Concentrate harder. And I'm someone that grew up with ADHD. It was harder for me than anybody else. And I was medicated when I was a child. I've been through the process. I was even in special ed. I had all kinds of issues with my concentration, and nothing really helped until I realized I have to practice concentration like it's a muscle. If I don't treat it that way, and I'm drugging myself and medicating myself and creating all kinds of excuses and justifications, I'm not addressing the issue that I have. And the issue is just a lack of ability to concentrate or hyper focus on concentration on things that I'm interested in. But sitting with your eyes closed, it's difficult to find something to be interested in. So it's difficult to concentrate. So that daily practice, just like bringing it back to your analogy of lifting weights, if I fall off, I'll notice it's harder. If I don't practice for a week or 2 weeks, I'm not as strong as I was. So this is all daily maintenance. And if you keep it going, you stay consistent and you're patient, and you don't deal with yourself with frustration and irritation, and you don't have expectations. You're not creating the sandcastles in the sky. Just an ability to sit in 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. If you can, 10 minutes, bring that to 20, push that to 30. Let it evolve. And then you start to feel the strength in your concentration. And then you start to enter levels of meditation. Then you see the value. And then you would never want to stop. Once you start to really break through that barrier of concentration, you will never want to stop, because you start to taste just drops of that essence of where this is going to really go. And that the motivation of that is all you would never need. You just have to get enough to, again, to your gym analogy, you're trying to get jacked, you want to get big, and you're skinny and a little fat at the same time, and you're not really motivated. And 1 week, nothing's going to happen. 2 weeks, nothing's going to happen. But maybe a month, not really. 2 months, kind of. 3 months, 4 months, 6 months is when you'd be like, ooh, okay. You start to see your shoulder cut a little bit, and the biceps a little bit bigger, or the triceps coming out. Now the motivation will be different. Now you've started to see the results of all that work you put in. Now it's not as hard to get to the gym. Now you got a whole different drive pushing you there. And this works under that same principle. You got to get through that kind of hard process of just waiting to see the result. And as soon as you feel the result, the motivation is all you need after that.
Okay. No, I'm thinking about time, because I don't believe time is linear. I don't think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't, because I think the experience and knowledge that we accumulate alters time, and that wisdom alters time. So if I start something by myself. First time I ever went to a gym, and it's not about the gym, I'm just using this as an analogy, but the first time I went to a gym, I worked hard. I wanted to be healthy, but I did a lot of the wrong stuff. I went in there, I did a lot of the wrong stuff, but I was there. I was very motivated. I was extremely motivated. I went there every single day, took the bus home after school, walked there, took the bus home. That's all I did. I did that. In between, Burger King, bro, rodeo cheeseburgers. That was my dinner. The wrong thing. Not understanding diet, not understanding nutrition, not understanding the time I'm eating, not understanding I didn't understand all of these things, but I was doing this thing trying to get this thing. It wasn't until I had more knowledge and wisdom of those pieces to where it took me 6-8 months to really get to a comfortable place of exercising, where really when I went into university, it took me a month and a half of doing very, very, very strict things, even more consistent, even more challenging, that challenged me more than I thought. I thought from that time to when I entered university, I thought I had grown so much personally. Personally, I had an ego. I said, I have put in the work. And then I got to this level. In this level, I realized that I was still doing it wrong. I was still doing all of this stuff wrong. And someone who had the knowledge and maybe showed me that maybe you have to contract this muscle and pull this one back. Maybe you shouldn't stand like this. You got to stand like this. You move your arm from here to down there. Makes all the difference. These little things catapulted my time, helped my recovery, and improved my overall physicality almost overnight. And these little things, I'm assuming, are your gurus, which is why you need mentors and why you need someone who can direct this curiosity, or else will people learn the lesson there if there is no mentor?
So guru, actually, the word actually means dispeller of darkness. That's what the word literally means. And in this context, darkness means ignorance. So the guru is knowledge. Knowledge removes your ignorance. It pulls you. It's the light in the dark. And in the culture that I am from and that I study, there's one of the most profound or highest forms of the divine is the deity Shiva, and the weapon that he carries is the trident. And in there's different schools of thought that have their own interpretation of it, but the best I have heard and resonate with the most is the three powers that can manifest what consciousness wants, right? And it's knowledge, will, and action. And those three combined will create what you want in life. And you remove one, you can start to see a problem. You take knowledge out of will and action, there's confidence with no clarity and no knowledge. A disaster can take place. You have knowledge with will, but no action. Well, it's just theories. This is not going anywhere. Knowledge and action, but no willpower. You see, so it's the combination of these things that actually can manifest something positive and powerful. And a good example you gave was that, you were doing something for so long, but you did something with knowledge applied to it with a mentor who dispelled the darkness you had in that situation, and things changed quickly. Things rapidly evolved. So it's a very good, for me at least, it was a very well put example of, how there's certain things have to be put into place for real tangible results to take place, to manifest into your life. And until those things you can be doing something for a long time, and, going back to the working out gym example, again, if you don't know what you're doing, no one's helping you, no one's mentoring you, nor did you take the effort to learn on your own, you didn't even try, then you can go there for years and nothing's going to happen. You're going to look the same and you're going to be frustrated about it. You don't have knowledge. If you went there for years, you had will and action. You went to the gym and you had the willpower, but you didn't know what you were doing, and that's that also helped me align a lot of things for me. It's like you need to make sure you have all these things tuned properly. Then things will start to evolve quickly. Like then you're able to apply and manifest things into your life and create real tangible results.
Did you have any breaking points? Any points where you're like, oh, I don't know.
I got close, but no, I never broke. I was determined.
I could see that. But what was the one that got you close that had you questioning it?
So when I was about to receive my diksha, which means my initiation, and you're initiated to what will be called your Ishta Devata, right? Your the specific deity that will be like a mold that you now attune yourself with. That's another topic of its own for later. But before that, you go through a certain kind of tapasya practices, penances. You have to kind of like prepare yourself. It's not no initiation will come easy. There's things you have to do, sacrifices you have to make. So one thing that I had to do for mine was I actually had to spend the entire night because we were doing something called an akanda japa, which means a mantra is to be recited for a long period of time. In this case, it was 24 hours straight. Now, this was done in shifts with all the monks and all the students that were at the ashram. So it was like 1 hour shift. Someone comes, hour, then, it was kind of done like that so the mantra can continue. And because I was in the process of an initiation, I had longer shifts, more shifts, which was amounting to close to 4 hours throughout the night with small gaps in between. And then when I remember seeing that and being like, well, that's not fair at all. And what the hell is this? So it's okay. So I go to one of the monks and I ask her, I'm like, hey, is this someone messed the schedule up or something? I'm not understanding. She's like, no, but actually, there's those gaps in between. Gurudeva recommends you also do those as well, amounting to 8 hours. And it was kind of presented to me in a way like, oh, if you can't, it's okay. So I'm like, oh, man. There's a lot to wrestle with because it was already bad enough. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't 4. It was 6 I was already doing. And I was complaining about why that's too much. And I only had these 2 gaps. So even complaining about it, I was challenged to not even give those up. So I did it. I started at 10 p.m. and until 6 a.m. I recited that mantra in the temple throughout the night. And that was probably one of the most insane experiences that I've ever been through. Because it's just, I'd like to say that I tuned into a state and lost. No, it just, every second was every second. It was like sitting on a very long flight that every second is passing by and the time, unfortunately there was a clock, right? Like I honestly, that made it way worse. And I it's just because you're also reciting a mantra the whole time. You're not sitting there in silence. That would have been bad enough, but the fact that your throat is sore and your back is sore, you're sitting on the ground, and it was hard. It was a very difficult thing, and I don't know. I still can't explain what the hell the mind goes through in that time. But yeah, I mean, if it was gonna break, it would have been that day, and I got through it. I got through it, and I hope I don't have to ever do it again. I'll admit, but that was definitely one of the more challenging experiences for me because it was brutal. And on top of that, because there was that 24-hour cycle, while I'm sitting there, I'm watching people come for their 1 hour shift, sit next to me, do their thing, leave, and then come back in 3 or 4 hours tired because they just didn't get a lot of sleep. And I could see in their body language, they're like complaining in their own mind, like, oh, I got to do this again. I haven't even left. I've been there those whole 4 hours they were sleeping. I've still been there, and I've been doing it and reciting it. And yeah, it was hard, and but it was a process for the diksha, for the initiation. So, and in hindsight, it was one of those things where if you had asked me before, can I do that? Well, I absolutely cannot do that. What are you talking about? I didn't even know I was going to be doing it until an hour before. Not like I had time to prepare. I didn't have to take a nap, stretch. It starts now. Let's go. So yeah, that if there was ever going to be a point I broke, it probably would have been that.
So first off, congratulations, because you are here and you did complete your
parts
diction.
of me are still here. So some parts of me didn't make it out of that.
Maybe that was very intended.
Yeah.
Now you did complete your diksha, yeah. And what comes along with that? Like, is that why you ended up leaving?
No, think of it like belts in a martial arts. Like the more you receive, it's your progression throughout the time. So
Gotcha.
it's like initiations, and you keep moving forward one after the other. So that was just my next belt, put it that way. So
Gotcha.
and they continue on. As you receive, I've received more since then. Hope to receive more going forward. But they all came with their challenges and all. But that was that came from a different dimension of challenge, I'll say.
So once you graduate, is it just like class over? See ya next time. How does that work?
There's no graduation from this process. More so, it's just like I said, like a guru removes the darkness you hold within yourself, the ignorance you hold within yourself. So the graduation is simply gaining more and more clarity, and that never ends. That never ends until you have completely become an enlightened being, and that's process of its own. that's not something you can know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how long it's going to take. Then the less patient you are, the less likely you are to get closer. But it's an ever-changing process, and it's only when you've developed the patience and also understand, that as you've improved the quality of your life becomes beautiful. You're not in a rush either. You shouldn't be in a rush. In fact, my guru would always tell us, when I remember someone asked him a very generic question once, what's the key to happiness? I hear that question asked a lot, and he definitely heard it a lot in the ashram. And he had tea with him, and he's like, you know what? Happiness is when you learn to stop and just enjoy your cup of tea, without any complaints or no rush or anything. Just one sip at a time, enjoy your cup of tea. And I think that was probably the most profound answer that I've ever heard in my life, because that's what it's all about. Could just stop and relax and get rid of your mind and all these things that are bothering you, and just something is in your hand to enjoy. Just enjoy it. Smell a flower, enjoy the sun, pet a dog, talk to your friends, enjoy time with your family. There's so much you can enjoy. You don't need much. You don't need things in your life, material, money, women. These are desires, but there's the littlest things that can make you happy, because these can be guaranteed. You can be guaranteed sunlight. You can be guaranteed a cup with something in it every now and then. And, and if it's not there, find something else to enjoy. And then you'll always find joy and happiness in your life. And then when struggles come. You might still have a cup of tea when the struggles are coming too. Enjoy it. It'll always act in contrast to the other things. And if you can even get to that place, enjoy the struggles too. That's the next step. That's the next belt you'll get. Struggle came, excited about it. Then you don't even need the tea. You've transcended the tea as well.
With that being said, I just want to say thank you for enjoying a cup of tea here with me. And
cheers to that, man.
This has been incredible.
Nothing better than a cup of tea.
This has been incredible, very enlightening. I from the bottom of my heart, genuinely thank you, man. This has been so educational, but at the same time profound, man. That's crazy. It's crazy. But you're here, and that's a testament to the kind of person that you are, and the kind of value that you are going to continue to bring to this world, and I respect that, and I appreciate it, and I respect your journey, man.
I respect you, man, and I respect your curiosity. I respect the fact that you're also trying to learn and grow, have conversations with people, and evolve yourself too. And that's what this is all about, man. That's what life is about. And as long as you continue to do that, life will always give you something valuable.
Well, with that note, man, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Running Bear. I like that whisper thing you do.